What is up, you guys? This is Aji Senpai here today, and I'm going to do a One Piece episode review. This is going to be my first episode review I've ever really done, so, cut me some slack. I may be choppy in some areas, but I'll be alright. I am planning on doing a manga every episode review at some point, either today, and I might upload it tomorrow. I'm not too sure on that yet. But I'll start doing some kind of reviews now to, get my channel started. So overall, the entirety of this episode was focused on one person, Bartolomeo, the cannibal, also known as one of the supernovas, the super rookies. Now, Bartolomeo is an interesting character, but before I get into him, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the episode that's important, at least when it comes to introduction-wise. So Cavendish helps out Luffy by introducing some of the big names that are in Block B. First, we have King Elizabeth II, the king of the Prudence Kingdom. And we also have his tactician, the Gama. Now, these two are important because King Elizabeth is really strong, but he's not strong in the sense that you would think he is. He apparently has this ridiculous punch called the King Punch, where apparently if he makes one punch, it can decimate a Yonko. According to rumors, of course. We don't know if that's true or not. And what we find out apparently is that he needs to warm up his punch before he can actually, put in some work. So, it's going to take a while. And the Gama is his tactician. Now, the Gama is actually formed an alliance with some other participants of Block B. He actually has Blue Gilly and Tank LaPont in his alliance. Blue Gilly seems to be some kind of, I forgot what the name is, but he's some sort of kick martial arts master, kind of like what Sanji is, but he's from the Long Leg tribe. And then we have Tank LaPont. Now, Tank LaPont apparently is the commander of the self-defense army of Dressrosa, meaning that this dude is probably pretty strong, considering the fact that he's a commander of his own army. But what's really interesting is that alliances are actually frowned upon, but they're still allowed, according to the commentator and according to Cavendish within this episode. So, and they're all focusing their sights on one person, Bellamy. Now, before I get into Bellamy, we move on with the introductions. The next introduction that I find interesting is this guy named Hack, a fishman, karate master. He reminds me of Jinbei in a sense because he's a fishman. I mean, that's pretty much it. But overall, not too really big when it comes to him. But when it comes to this other guy, apparently there's this gladiator who's holding some kind of blunt sword. And he's just going at it with all these fodder gladiators. Like, he's just taking them out, which is pretty impressive. But if you notice, like I said before, it's a blunt sword. The sword isn't cutting the guys. It's just hitting them in the stomach, just knocking them out. Like, bam, bam. And he's just taking out dudes. But we don't know his fighting style, nor do we know exactly who he is yet. But his name apparently is called Ricky. Now, he's an unknown gladiator. Like, no one knows who he is, really. But apparently, Cavendish thinks that he's strong enough to possibly win that block. Next, we have Bellamy. Now, like I said before, Bellamy, he apparently is fighting Tank LaPont right now. But Bellamy is actually putting in work of his own. We see him actually go up against some of the fodder gladiators. And I must say, Bellamy did progress a lot throughout the time skip, at least when it comes to fighting ability. Because you see him, he takes on all these fodder gladiators, he uses his devil fruit, the spring fruit, bouncing off dudes, and he actually has his signature technique, the spring death knock, and he just pulls back and just punches, right, kind of like what Luffy does with his pistol, like his Gomu Gomu no pistol. You can tell he's impressive now, because, a lot of people actually like Bellamy when it comes to the Dressrosa citizens. Like, they see Bellamy, they're like, oh, Bellamy, he's our hero, we love you, Bellamy. And this makes me mad, because how did Bellamy have more girls than I do? Bellamy was hated. He was like, no one liked him, especially the One Piece fans. But you see other girls in the crowd, oh, Bellamy, oh, yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, what the it makes me mad. But I do give him props, because it does seem like he's gotten his strength increased during the time skip. In fact, that makes sense considering the fact that he now has a 195 million berry bounty. And another thing we know is that the commentator actually states that Bellamy now actually has given Doflamingo a gold pillar that he brought back from Skypiea. Do you remember from last episode where Bellamy mentioned to Luffy, "Oh, I went to Skypiea with my crew," and how his crew didn't survive the journey, so he came back by himself and gave the golden pillar? When you think about it, that golden pillar is probably pretty damn heavy. And that's pretty impressive. Now, is Bellamy redeemed just by this episode alone? Not really, considering that fact that we still don't know, like, what else we have in store for him. Like, what else does he have under his sleeve? I don't really know for sure either. But, well, I do, but, you know, the only anime watchers, they don't know. So when it comes to Bellamy, pretty much it's him against Tank LePont. Now you can obviously tell that the reason why they formed this alliance was to take down Bellamy, because a lot of people are putting Bellamy up on his high standard to where, like, okay, we need to form an alliance because none of us can take on Bellamy alone. We need to form an alliance and beat this dude with teamwork power. And is it smart? Yeah, it is pretty smart. I'll give it that. Like, I'll give it to Dagama, because he's the one who created the alliance. But what's also interesting is that you wonder, when it comes to Bellamy, how is he that strong to where they needed an alliance? Because they mentioned Tank LePont, he's pretty strong. Ricky, we've seen him, he's alright. Blue Gilly, he's a member of the long leg tribe, he should be pretty strong. So you wonder about Bellamy's strength level when you look at how they have to build an alliance just to defeat him. Now, what happens next is pretty much, we see Tank LePont against a couple other dudes. He has this huge mace. He's just swinging it around. Bam, bam, bam. And so basically, the whole of Block B is just fighting for now. Now, when we get to Bartolomeo, that's the main focus of this episode by far. Because Bartolomeo isn't even fighting. Matter of fact, Bartolomeo is sitting on the sidelines watching it all go down. And before this actually happens, we see Bartolomeo, he throws this black ball into the audience. And people think it's a bomb, so they start hauling ass. So like, oh shit, bomb. And they're just hauling ass. Next thing you know, it hits the ground, it's not really a bomb, it's just a dud. So I mean, yeah. And basically, from what we see from what Bartolomeo says, he doesn't really care about what the audience thinks. Which is interesting, because it's like, wow, so here's a dude who's really infamous, but yet he doesn't really care. He just wants to do whatever he wants to do. And of course, we have Cavendish. Cavendish is like, oh, he's not that great. Oh, you know, his popularity isn't well deserved. Cavendish, he's salty. But anyways, and what I consider to be the main thing, not the problem, but the main thing is that Bartolomeo, even though he took out a vice admiral with ease, he's not really doing any fighting. He's just standing there, just waiting for it to all go down. So it's like, Bartolomeo, like, bro, what are you doing? Like, why are you standing back there? But overall, that's pretty much the episode. The rest of it was pretty much just fathers fighting each other. You know, just them trying to extend the episode even further to all of Block B. But pretty much that's it, except for one more thing, which I think is the highlight of this episode. Apparently, Don Chin Jiao, the dude from the Kano Kingdom, or the Kano country, the Flower Country, he walks over, and there's this funny scene where he nudges into Luffy, and Cavendish is like, you know, they're squashed against the wall. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And despite being a calm dude, he immediately mentions that apparently Luffy's grandfather Garp nearly killed him in battle once. Like, Garp and Chin Jiao fought at one point, but apparently Garp won the battle and almost killed Chin Jiao. But he's so calm about this. He even uses the Japanese suffix, you know, the one where you call someone by that thing because you know you're trying to be polite. He calls him Luffy-kun, and I'm like, why are you so calm? So why he's so calm, we don't really know. Even though he says that because Garp did him in like that, he wants to exact his revenge on all of Garp's descendants. and that probably includes Luffy, Dragon, anyone that's related to Garp. And what that happens, when that happens, Luffy's identity is exposed to Cavendish. So Cavendish finds out that he's Luffy. Now, is that going to be a problem for Luffy? Will that mean that Luffy will have to fight Cavendish? Yeah. Can Cavendish defeat Luffy? Probably not. I mean, he'll give Luffy some trouble, because he does have a bounty of over 200 million. I think it's 280 million. He'll give some difficulty, but I'm pretty sure Luffy at this point, he should be able to beat him. So overall, this episode really wasn't anything special, but it's more introduction based. And the introductions are important for later, like they really are. So I'll give this episode OK plus. Yeah, this is an OK plus episode. And I'll see you guys later. Be sure, of course, rate, comment, and subscribe. Like the video if you like it. Dislike it if you don't. And I will post my Magi, the Kingdom of Magic episode review at some point when I see it, and when it comes out, I'll make a review later, and then I'll upload it today or tomorrow. Depends on when I have time. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace.